please consider supporting my Patreon. Links are in the description below. Out there, this is Wakeangel2K1 bringing you my top 10 customs of 2015. Now this list actually took me some time to compile because the original straw poll vote had 4 ties. Well, 3 ties. There was a definitive first place, but there was a 3-way tie for second place, a 2-way tie for third place, and a 6-way tie for fourth place. So I had to put up a bunch of secondary polls to decide on a real ranking from 1 to 10, and then there were 2 honorable mentions because they got the same number of votes as the rest. But in the end, everything was decided. So let's begin with honorable mention number 1. So the first honorable mention is Sonic Universe Z, which was a commission for Speed the Hedgehog 42. I was surprised to see him make it here. After all, I initially got some negative reactions from him because, the character is literally just Sonic wearing a fancy outfit. But, it did take some creativity to come up with all the fabric accoutrements to this costume. Because, putting soft goods on an action figure, especially one in the 3-inch scale, is often quite a challenge in and of itself. So yeah, that's the first honorable mention. The second honorable mention is Squirrel Girl, commissioned for Andrew Strappers, also known as Andrew Rankin, also known as the guy who animated my little theme song, my intro. I really like Squirrel Girl. This was the first time I had ever made a custom using a Marvel Legends figure. And I know Marvel Legends are actually a very common figure to use customs from. I just wish that maybe that White Tigress figure, the White Tiger figure, had come out a little bit sooner, because I'm pretty sure I would have used her, since, Squirrel Girl doesn't wear a mask, and the Spider Girl figure was an almost perfect nude buck, except for that mask. But still, thanks to that alternate head, I think she came out pretty good. So let's get on to the real list with number 10. Number 10 is Zero the Hedgehog. That's right, a fan character made it into the top 10. I think his resemblance to Mephiles from Sonic 2006 is what gave him great appeal, because it is a really cool design. The only thing that I don't like about it is that he's one of those fan characters that has side dreads, like an echidna. I really don't have anything against the look itself, but I have to sculpt those, and when I sculpt them, they're going to be made out of epoxy, which is not flexible, meaning it's going to limit the movements of the shoulders or risk snapping off if you get too careless when you're posing them. So, I just make one final plea to anyone who designs fan characters: unless they're actually going to be made from an Amy Rose or a Knuckles where the figures themselves have the sideburns, don't put the sideburns on them, please. Or at least design it so that the sideburns go behind the shoulders. Yeah, almost forgot to mention, this guy is also a commission for Speed the Hedgehog 42. Look at that, 2 of your customs gone to the list, Speed. Number 9 was Classic Knuckles, commissioned by Sir Space Corps 72. Classic Knuckles. Like I said before, Jazzwares came 4 figures short of what would have been a complete Sonic set. Of course, they had to complete Team Rose and Team Dark with Rouge, Omega, and Cream and Cheese, but they also failed to complete the classic set. They made Classic Sonic, Tails, Dr. Eggman, and Metal Sonic, who all appeared in Sonic Generations fair and square, but then they made Classic Amy, and Classic Amy didn't appear in Sonic Generations. She was a classic character, but they made her because she was a classic character, not because she was a Generations tie-in. And that being said, that means that they should have made a Classic Knuckles too to complete the set. Not having a Classic Knuckles left a hole in the collection, and at least for one person, I managed to fill that hole in. Number 8, Sonic Man. Ah, Sonic Man. He was the result of a poll I had put out of a bunch of custom figures I was planning on making and wanted to let my fans decide what order they would come in. Him and Maega Man took a clear first. And so I knew everybody wanted to see Sonic Man more, so I made him first. Yes, I really did like making this guy. I had been getting requests to make Sonic Man as a roboticized master since before Sonic Man was officially introduced into the comics. They wanted me to do anything from basing him on fan designs to from a single panel what if scenario that showed another version of roboticized Sonic that did not look like this, for the record. I also love that the W symbol on his forehead, which is supposed to stand for Wily, is incredibly similar, both in shape and color, to the logo for Wild Tangent Games. That was just hilarious. Number 7 was Perci, which was the second winner of the fan poll choice. Funny how that worked out, huh? Man, I remember the voting for Perci and Sonic Man was neck and neck in one of those tiebreaker votes. That was pretty hilarious, too. But Perci came out ahead, and why not? Because she's just awesome. She's a female character. People love those. She's the first time I actually used one of the the Tomy Sonic Boom figures to make a custom. And well, you know, she just kind of works out. I really did enjoy making Perci and learning that she's in fact a bandicoot and not a hedgehog. And I just love that now I have one of the background characters from the game who can make my Amy Rose figure jealous as all the others vie for her affections, like in that one episode of the cartoon she appeared in. Oh, come on, that is just so hilarious. Everybody who's always saying that Amy is way more emotionally mature now in Sonic Boom than she is in the proper universe, all they have to do is watch that episode to know that that's just a thin little veneer she puts on top. 6. Ixis Naugus, the last figure to be commissioned by Tekkaspike, my friend and most prolific customer. I was really happy to make Naugus. This guy is just great. The base figure is actually pretty unique in that it was a TMNT Slash from the original toy line, like the one that came out in the late 80s. Actually, since that toy line proliferated into the early 90s, that means it might have actually been sold on store shelves while the Sad AM Sonic cartoon was on the air. And think about that. It's kind of funny. Another cool thing is that if this figure had been made in its time, Ixis Naugus might actually have been like this in terms of sculpt and articulation. I was really surprised at how much of Slash's original face I was able to use. I just had to make his eyes a little more symmetrical and then add the ears and nose and beard. The basic shape of the head and the mouth were already there for me. So, yeah, I doubt this is the last time I've heard from Tekkaspike, given how much he wants from me still, and I'm glad that this guy was as well liked as by all of you as it was by me. 5. Freedom Leader. Yes, this was a Princess Sally figure that I made. A very special Sally figure in that it used one of the custom heads made by Red X, also known as Sonic Ranger or Shadow Ranger. He had made a custom action figure of Princess Sally he called Freedom Leader, and then made casts of her head so that other people might be able to make the custom as well. So AC Reinhardt, the guy who commissioned the Sally, ordered one of those heads and sent it to me so that I may make him a Princess Sally with a face more accurate to the classic Sad AM cartoon. This figure, like, I wish that I could have done that head a little bit more justice, because, you know, the classic Sally's head looks a little bit weird on what's essentially a modern Sally body, and I kind of made the breasts a little bit too round and too big. It's like, there's only so much that I can sculpt at this scale. Ironically, if Sally wore a shirt, so I didn't have to worry about their individual shapes so much, they probably would have come out a little bit better. That's an argument for post-Super Genesis way, Sally, isn't it? But other than that, this really was one of my better Sally figures. She keeps the wrist articulation. She balances well, and seriously, man, that Freedom Leader head, it is just amazing. Going back to something I made the year prior, so it wasn't on this list. When I made my own classic Sally, I actually did it based on Red X's design. I noticed that he had used a Blaze the Cat head as the base. I'm like, oh, he used Blaze the Cat to make a classic Sally figure. Brilliant! And then I kind of finished mine first and scooped him, but I'm always sure to give him credit for the inspiration. Okay, we've been on this one a little bit too long. Let's move on to the next one. Number 4, Falco. Yes, Falco. Originally, this was going to be a custom of Star Fox, but then when I found out that Fox had been confirmed for the World of Nintendo line, I decided to abort the project. But I had already bought the base figure, being a Black Series 3.75-inch Luke Skywalker. I decided to instead change my plans and make Falco instead. Funnily enough, when the Fox figure actually came out, he was actually a different scale. I had scaled Falco to be with the Skyward Sword Link, only to find that Fox would end up scaling with Mario instead, so this Falco would be too short. And I had based the design off of what he would look like in Super Smash Bros., while the Fox that got made is based more on what he looked like in Star Fox 64. So I kind of made the mistake both ways. I should have just went ahead with Fox. Of course, this means that I am in fact going to make Fox. I even bought another Luke Skywalker figure just for that purpose, but that's for something later. This Falco, on the other hand, he just looks fantastic. He actually looks a lot like the Falco amiibo, because the Falco amiibo was made to look like he looks in Smash Brothers. So, Falco, this is a personal project, and one that I think came out really well. I'm actually looking quite forward to making more Star Fox figures in the future. Number 3, a Sonic and the Black Knight interpretation of Shard the Metal. This was commissioned by a lady named Grady on behalf of her grandson, who came up with the design idea. And for a kid that age, this was really creative. This was the first and only time I've ever made a custom using a Sonic and the Black Knight figure as a base, and it was, of course, Excalibur Sonic himself. This was really cool because not only did it allow me to make a custom from a toy that I never thought I would, but it also allowed me to experiment with a theory that I had that this figure had plenty of articulation points, but not much posability because his sculpt got in the way. So by taking out almost imperceivable pieces of plastic from around the joints, I was actually able to increase his articulation level by quite a bit, just like I always thought was possible. I'm almost certain that when Jazzwares made these figures, they simply took the 3D models from the video games and translated them into their molds. But the thing is that those models don't take clipping into account. So that's why their articulation is so compromised, especially with the joints that they decided to go with. So there's using a little bit less material makes the figure more posable. Isn't that just the way? Number 2, Nicole. Another one of Tekka Spike's commissions, and of course she's number 2. I had been getting requests to make Nicole for years before Tekka Spike got around to actually commissioning it, and she's someone I always wanted to get around to. I love Nicole. Even before she acquired her Lynx form. Nicole is just a beloved character from the Sonic franchise, at least for fans from the original SatAM cartoon and the comic book. Ever since she was basically Sally's PDA living in her boot pocket, she has always been there to help the freedom fighters, and everybody would be dead so many times over if it weren't for her. To see Nicole actually be respected as a character and get a real arc and eventually a physical form that allows her to interact with everybody as an equal was just a delight for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. Nicole is a character that just has so much goodwill in her. She is one of my favorite benevolent artificial intelligence characters from any fiction. Going up there with the EMH Doctor from Voyager, Data, R2-D2 and C-3PO, Johnny 5, you know, like, those characters. Like, she's up there with them. And if you're wondering why there weren't any Transformers on that list, it's because I don't consider Transformers to be artificial intelligences. They are aliens, and they are naturally evolved, not built. At least in, you know, the continuities that I care about. Finally, number 1, E123 Omega. And of course this guy would win the year. He got twice as many votes in the poll as anybody else. And heck, he was my pick. Even though I didn't vote in my own poll, I would have voted for him too. He's basically one of my greatest creations. I mean, his head is a little bit awkwardly shaped, but that's just working around Optimus's head already in there. But come on, guys, look at him. He's made from a Legends Optimus Prime figure, which gives him such a wonderful amount of articulation. And I just did so many things with this. Like, I had to sculpt around Optimus Prime's body to seal all of his transformation hinges so the figure wouldn't fall apart, and like I used pieces, like there's pieces of Legos and Gundam kits and polycap ball joints and like this was an engineering feat. I accomplished stuff when I made this guy. And like not only does he look fantastic, but I have the satisfaction of making a functional toy. Oh man, I'm so proud of him. I wish I didn't have to give him away or you know, sell him. And yes, it means that there is a complete Team Dark somewhere in the world right now. Well, technically still mine, because Davin, the commissioner of him, still has more figures, which will be coming soon. But yes, Omega is the definitive number 1 of 2015. Thank you, all of my beautiful watchers, my subscribers, my commissioners. I do this all for you and all for your love. Here's to another 53 or more customs in 2016. Wakeangel2K1 signing out.